Hi there everyone, this is Julie Hoffman. I'm the Street Smart Diva and you can find out lots more information about ways I might be able to help you and free real estate tips and tricks at the streetsmartdiva.com. Sorry, that's just streetsmartdiva.com. Basically, here's my background. I've done hundreds of deals and close to $100 million in real estate transactions. I've been through the recession, I was almost ruined, basically bankrupted, and I managed to rally back, build another multi-million dollar portfolio with thousands of dollars per month of positive cash flow. And I've learned a lot of things along my wild ride of a journey. It's my pleasure really to be with you here today. So welcome to the Street Smart Analyzer. This analyzer is definitely a labor of love for me. I've never had anything quite like this tool since I started investing in real estate back in 2001, and I certainly could have used it. I've always used Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, at least I have for a long time, because I really like to make sure my numbers are correct. Not everybody likes to do this. I like to do this mostly because, well, I'm a gigantic nerd. That's right, I'm a street smart nerd. I guess there's a place for nerds in every walk of life. Well, in the last several months, I've developed better and better calculators along with, brilliant people, like basically masterminding, in order to make analyzing a property quick and efficient. So I'm really happy to share with you this really handy tool. I hope it's something that helps you. So thanks for being here. Oh, and one other thing. I've got 5 kids, and they're all home from time to time as I'm recording this for you, because here's the thing though, I want to get my analyzer out into the world as soon as possible. It's going to help a lot of people, I think. And yeah, you know what, I've got 5 kids, I'm a mom, I'm a real estate investor, I'm a wife, I'm a real estate investment coach, I'm a lot of things. This is me. So you know what, you might hear their beautiful little voices from time to time in the background, because I'm pretty sure they're playing Minecraft right now, and as you all know, Minecraft can get very intense. So yeah, sure, I can wait for peace and quiet, but you know what, that's just not me. And I really still think, at least I hope, that you'll get a lot out of this training. So let's get started. And ta-da! Here is the analyzer. Hours and hours and hours and days of putting this thing together. I'm sorry it's not fancier, and I live in Canada, so I say I'm sorry a lot. Just get used to it. It'll be okay. Here is the analyzer. Let me show you real quickly how to enable editing so that you can use the calculator. You just click on Enable Edit, and you should be able to change the yellow cells. And I'll have more for you on the yellow cells later. All right, first of all, this is a calculator for somebody who's looking to purchase a rental property. You can use it if you already own one. You just kind of have to monkey around with the numbers a little bit. It's perfectly fine. However, the way that I'm going to instruct you on the use of it is as if you're trying to determine whether or not to buy a property. I want to point out that I'm going to be talking a lot about the cells, but the ones I want you to focus on are the yellow cells primarily. I want you to make sure that you have numbers for each and every one of them, even if it's 0. I'm going to go through them one by one, top to bottom, basically left to right. And I'm going to point out how every cell influences how much money you make, or your total profit, which is over here in blue. Because that's what it's all about, right, folks? It's about you. It's about your profit and how this property is going to influence your life. I mean, that's why you're thinking of buying a rental property, right? All right, first things first, the purchase price. For our example today, we're going to use $350,000. Now, once you enter the purchase price, the calculator automatically calculates your original mortgage balance, the balance at the end of the term, or the sale balance, and your mortgage payment. This is one of my favorite things about this calculator, because I used to go back and forth and use an online service to calculate these numbers. Again, I'd go back and forth from my spreadsheet, and numbers would go missing or they would be inaccurate, and it was just driving me crazy. As you can see here, when you click on the amortization and change the number from, let's say, 25 to 30, the mortgage is calculated automatically. The payment changes, and guess what? Of course, your total profit changes. Cool, huh? Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Now let's talk about the rental amount. Now, If you're looking at purchasing a rental property, I am assuming that you have done your research to see what the property will rent for. And if you have not done that, then you need to make sure and do that before you put an offer on the property. You just got to know this stuff. You've got to do your research and make sure. You want to know what you're getting yourself into ahead of time. All right, so let's just say that the rent on this property is $2,200 per month. Now, what can sometimes happen is this. You've done all your research. You're sure, like 100% sure, that this house will rent for $2,200 per month. Great, but you know what? A street smart buyer always has a backup plan. So what you have to do is you have to calculate what your drop dead amount is. In other words, what your zero cash flow is. And before you make an offer, you need to make sure that you can stomach it if you're not making cash flow. It can be a really tough pill to swallow, but sometimes, you know what, you need to go to plan B or plan C or plan D in order to make sure that you can make it through the literal winter. So let's see what the drop dead amount is in this case. All right, let's see. Is it this? No, it's not that. All right. So this is our drop dead amount. This is what you'll get if there is no cash flow. So, you know what? If you're sitting on a newly purchased vacancy, you know what your drop dead amount is. Hey, listen, you can always go up in price, but you need to make sure that you are covered. Now, legal fees, they're pretty straightforward. They are what they are. There's not much getting around it. Some lawyers cost more, some lawyers cost less. You know, it's just up to you to know how much this purchase is going to cost as far as legal fees. So I have $3,000 here. I recommend, of course, that you use a real estate lawyer. There's all kinds of specialties in law, and here's the thing, though, is you don't want to use your brother-in-law just because you like him. You know, if he's a divorce lawyer, because he probably, you know, doesn't do real estate every day. So, you know, my point is you want to use a lawyer who has experience in real estate. All right, now this other amount is anything outside of what you can see here. Some places, like the province that I live in, have a land transfer tax. The government actually charges us every time a property changes hands. It's kind of insane. But this could also be for inspections or appraisals, or maybe the cost to clean or paint the house, you know, before you put tenants in it. Next is your exit costs. And you'd be amazed how many times people don't factor this in. I've calculated the cost of a realtor because, you know what, realtors will just make your life easier. I've used realtors to sell hundreds of properties. I have a course that teaches you to sell your house yourself, so go ahead and check that out later on. But for now, let's just assume for simplicity that you're going to use a realtor. So it's a pretty standard cost to sell on the MLS, which is 7% on the first $100,000 and 3% on the balance. Hey, you know, if you end up paying less, great. It's fairly simple to do your own math if you decide not to use a realtor. You know, you just got to add it to whatever you've paid and add it to your total profit. Pretty easy. You can't do that inside this calculator, but, you know, if your realtor costs are half as much, then again, you just add it on to the end. All right, I think that's pretty straightforward. Your legal fees, again, like I said before, they're likely going to go up. Lawyers, yeah, they got to keep up with inflation, and they have an important role in real estate transactions. They make sure that everything gets done properly. They're there for a reason, and they are worth their money, at least in my opinion. Now, other expenses, they're just similar to the other expenses in the purchase. You might need to pay to have the house cleaned or painted or staged, you know, if it's going to be vacant. It might sit vacant for a while, you know, if the tenants leave once they know that the house is for sale. So you might have some carrying costs. By the way, yeah, I have another course on how to sell your house to your tenants. I don't mean to keep highlighting my other courses, but you know what? It might come in handy at some point in the future. You know, especially if paying a realtor doesn't make sense for you financially. Either way, you want to put additional costs here. Next, we're going to talk about the rate. And yes, I'm really excited to talk about the rate because, again, I'm a nerd. Now, you have been approved for financing already, right? Well, if not, then please don't call a realtor. Don't start looking at properties. First, you got to call a mortgage broker or a loan officer or sit with a loan officer at your bank. You know, seriously, just like doing your research on the rent, you want to know what you can and cannot do. And if you find out that you can't qualify for financing on a rental property, don't worry. My next course is actually on how to purchase properties for low to no money down and without qualifying for financing. Yeah, there I go with another pitch. But hey, you might be glad that you heard it. Regardless, the rate can be really, really important. It can make you thousands of dollars more depending on what is available. And mortgage brokers, they get a lot of special deals on rates. And they go up and down a lot, so you really have to keep up with the times. Make sure you know what this amount is and what your options are. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later on. Next is the tax amount. Now, keep in mind that taxes can go up and they can go down. Mostly they go up. Save this spreadsheet and date it. Go back to it every year with your tax statement. So have one saved for this year, have one saved for next year. You want to know how your taxes are affecting you. If they're going up, that's likely a good thing because it means your property is going up in value. And if they go up a lot, your taxes, then you probably need to think about giving your tenant a notice to increase their rent the next chance that you get. Or not, you know, whatever you think is best. And it goes back to your drop dead amounts and what you can stomach when it comes to how much cash flow you need. Other fees in the monthly amount can include homeowner association fees, sorry, tripping over my words, and condo fees. Both of these fees can go up and down, even very drastically, so make sure you keep an eye on these expenses. Vacancy and repairs will vary. Now, if you're in a very hot rental market and there are always, you know, a dozen qualified tenant buyers or qualified tenants lining up at your door to rent your place, then your vacancy calculation, you know what, it might be lower. This is to your discretion. Also, if your property is older, even if it has really low vacancy, it might need a lot of frequent repairs simply due to wear and tear. Or if it's a very new property, you know what, it likely won't need a lot of maintenance. I've put in a percentage, so it's just a total percentage. So if you put in 6%, that'll allow for 3% of vacancy and 3% for maintenance that you should put away every month in kind of a savings account. So if your maintenance should be higher, say by another 3%, just put in the total amount. So 3% for vacancy, 6% for maintenance, that's 9%. But you know what? You can save as much as you want for a rainy day. And let me tell you what, folks, rainy days, they do happen. Now you need to know how much your insurance is going to cost. It can also go up and down, so make sure you keep up with that. Insurance in the province where I used to live for a long time has gone up like 30% in the last 5 years. You know what? That hurts my bottom line, but I need to know it, and so do you. Now, let's talk about the down payment. This is how much you will put down on a property. It's usually 20% down to 25% down. The more you put for a down payment, the less your mortgage payment will be, and the higher your cash flow. Now, the less you put down, the higher your mortgage payment will be. So, well, and the less your cash flow is going to be. So, it's important to know what you're getting for your financing. You need to understand how much you are putting down. You need to understand your rate. You need to understand your amortization as well as your term. These all influence your total profit. And with the right combination, it can make you thousands of dollars more, or it can cost you thousands of dollars more. Now, again, I teach a low to no money down qualifying property acquisition course, or called the Street Smart Buyer. And In it, you'll learn how to put very low money down, sometimes no money down. But regardless, you still need to know all this information with regard to financing that might be kept in place, okay? I'll be talking about that in the course. But again, regardless, you need to know your rate, you need to know your term, you need to know your amortization, and you also need to make sure and understand, what your down payment's going to be so you can calculate your return on investment. Now I'm going to say once again, make sure you have seen a mortgage broker or a loan officer at your bank in order to make sure you can qualify for financing. Or even if you've already taken my course on how to buy no bank qualified property, you should have all the information. I just talked about this. The point is you need the mortgage information. We're going to go through mortgage information step by step. First, you want to determine the amount of your loan. This will depend on how much you pay for a down payment. Again, for most rental property, it's 20% to 25% down. This, of course, can always vary. All right, if we go down to down payment, we can see how much it changes the original mortgage amount. With 20% down, look at the original mortgage amount. All right, now let's say with 25% down, how that changes the original mortgage amount. And it also changes the monthly income and the monthly payment. So it can really change your cash flow. All right, you can play around with these numbers and see how it affects you. Now, you always want to go into an investment with the end in mind. You need to calculate all your profit centers. Appreciation is related to one of your profit centers, sale profit. Appreciation is how much the property goes up in value. So for simplicity purposes, let's say that the property goes up 3% per year over 3 years. Now, if this happens, then your property will be worth approximately this much. Now, keep in mind, I keep saying now, sorry, it's just one of my speaker habits. Keep in mind that just because the property values go up doesn't mean that your property has gone up that much in value. You probably want to check in with a local realtor to do what's called a comparative market analysis or a comp or a CMA to see what he or she can sell it for. And, if you're really serious about selling, you should get at least 2 different opinions from 2 different brokerages. You can always just pay attention to what's going on around you. I mean, in my neighborhood recently, there have been a lot of listings and a lot of quick sales, which I love. I love seeing this because it probably means my house has gone up in value. But what you can do is just search the properties that are listed in your neighborhood and see what they're worth. Either way, you should have an exit price in mind or a goal for making a profit. You can use percentages to find your ideal price. So you can modify the years to plan to see how long you want to hold on to the investment. So let's say that you have a 5-year plan and you want to be really conservative. So you have the property appreciate, let's say, only 1% per year. Well, in the case of a $350,000 property, if it appreciates 1% per year over 5 years, and it's rented for, say, $2,200 per month, you're looking at a profit from the 3 profit centers of close to $60,000. All right, let's see now how much it would go up if it appreciated 2% per year. Holy smokes! It raises the profit by about $20,000. All right, now let's just say that you have a target exit price. You can use the percentages to estimate where you will be. So let's say that you want to sell at $400,000 in 5 years. Well, the property will have to appreciate about 3% per year in order to achieve that goal. Now let's say that you've owned the house for, let's say, 3 years. And all the news can talk about is how the real estate market is red hot. Let's say people are saying that values have gone up an average of 10% per year over the last 3 years. All right, let's plug that in. Holy smokes. That's another $120,000 in your jeans. Yes, after paying a realtor too. Oh, the term. The term is so important. It's one thing that many people don't even think about. Honestly, it makes me shake my head. The term is how long you'll typically be offered a certain rate. Sometimes it's a variable rate. Sometimes it's a locked-in rate. You need to think about how long you want to own the property. So let's just say, for simplicity, that you want to see how things go for 3 years and then evaluate where you're at. I recommend that you select a 3-year term. Try to get the best rate you can because, of course, a lower rate is going to make your mortgage costs lower and it's going to increase your cash flow. Now, you need to know the date of your renewal. You need to put it in your calendar or keep it here in your Street Smart Analyzer somewhere. Then back up 6 months and plan to look at your Street Smart Analyzer again. 6 months before the renewal date. Look at how the property is performing. Now, if you're sick of it and you want to sell it, then all you have to do is input all the numbers to see how you'll do. Let's say that the tenants have been a pain. They have just been a pain. You have had to evict them. And it cost you $2,000 to do that, and $2,300 in carrying costs because it was vacant. We'll put in $4,300 in other sale costs. But there's some good news. It's gone up quite a bit in value, about 5% per year. And you're on a month-to-month with the new tenants. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I use the words evict and month-to-month, then please take a landlord training. Yes, of course, I have my own course. It's called the Street Smart Landlord. I totally recommend it because I've been a landlord of hundreds of people. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you take it from me or you take it anywhere else. Make sure you know landlording before you buy a property. Okay, back to this hypothetical property. So far, even with the cost, it looks like you can make some decent money. So, yeah, it's probably not that big a deal if you sell it, at or around the end of the term. And that way you can avoid prepayment penalties. If you want to hold on, you should put some thought into how long. If you think you might be a year away from wanting to sell, then it might be a good idea to select an open rate mortgage for a renewal. Here's the thing. If you sell your property in the middle of the term, it can literally cost you thousands of dollars. I just dealt with a couple in Saskatchewan. They had an $11,000 prepayment penalty. Now, that's $11,000 the bank gets just because, these nice people in Saskatchewan need to sell their house. Now, I don't know about you, but I can think of a lot of things that I can do with $11,000. So pay attention. The bank, they'll grab your money if you're not watching. And you know what? They'll have you sign paperwork giving them permission to do it. So it's not on them, it's on you. I probably sound like I'm being pretty hard on the banks, but believe me, I love banks. They give me money to buy assets. But I've seen so many people, lose piles of money simply by not paying attention. And guess what, folks? That's right. I was one of those people. We're talking about lots and lots of money. So, fool me once, shame on you. But fool me twice, shame on me. The amortization is something a lot of folks don't pay attention to either. I could talk for hours and hours about amortizations, mostly because, yes, again, I'm a big giant nerd. But this is basically, the amortization is basically how long it takes your mortgage to be paid off. Most residential properties have a choice somewhere between 25 years and 35 years. Now, the shorter the amortization, the higher the mortgage payment, and the quicker the mortgage is going to get paid off, and the lower the cash flow. So let's look at a 25-year amortization. It'll get paid off $20,000 in 3 years, and my cash flow, that's going to be about $450 a month. The longer the amortization, the lower the mortgage payment, and the longer it takes to pay off the property. So with a 35-year amortization, I will get paid $12,000 over 3 years, but the cash flow will be $675 a month. $675 cash flow for a single family home is awesome. All right, so This is where you want to make some decisions. Do you want higher cash flow, or do you want to pay the debt down aggressively? Some people, they have quite different preferences. So keep in mind that when debt is paid down quickly, and keep it also in mind that the debt is paid down by your tenant, this is called equity. But you cannot buy groceries with equity. Your cash flow is considered income, and you need to discuss, how to deal with all this with your accountant, preferably one who's also familiar with real estate, just like your lawyer. What I like about cash flow goes back to the grocery thing, though. Every grocery store that I know accepts cash. It's a big thing to consider, so make sure you take a close look at how your amortization affects your financial world. Alright, so let's go over the yellow cells. The information you need in order to make sure that you have everything is the purchase price, the rent, other expenses, taxes, insurance, vacancy, and maintenance, purchase expenses, sale expenses, your rate, your down payment, the appreciation, the term, the amortization, and that is that. I think we got it. Super. Now I want to point out that there are 3 profit centers: cash flow, sale profit, and mortgage reduction. Cash flow is automatically calculated according to the rent minus all expenses multiplied monthly over term. Okay, so it's all in here in the calculator for you. Sale profit, it's the difference between the cost of the rental property and what it was sold for. The third profit center is called mortgage reduction, and well, it's not actually profit, but it is still money in your jeans, because while your tenant is paying your rent, you then are paying your mortgage, and slowly but surely the mortgage gets paid down and creates equity. And I love equity. Even though I can't buy groceries with it, I still love it. It's one of my favorite things about real estate investment. It's like a cherry on top of the sundae, or sprinkles, or whatever, whipped cream, whatever. In this case, over the course of 3 years, the mortgage gets paid off by over $20,000, which is a lot of money. It's a year of college tuition, or a new car, or a Disney cruise. Maybe it's a down payment on another property. So it's so important to pay attention to this number because, well, at least for me, I feel pretty smart when I let somebody else earn me an extra $20,000 just for giving them a nice place to live for a while. I need to teach you one more thing before I wrap up. I recommend you use this analyzer throughout your rental. Things will happen, unexpected expenses, maybe a huge jump in the market, or again, as I suggested before, your mortgage will just be up for renewal and you'll need to decide what to do. Keep your Street Smart calculator handy and save it. Save the date that you saved it. So, if you go up to File, just left click, Save As, and then date it or name it in some way that will help you remember. And then keep it in a file, on your desktop related to the property. That way it's super easy to find. There are lots of scenarios that you can run with this analyzer. Play around with it. See how it works for you. I absolutely welcome feedback. I want to make sure that I've provided something for you that's actually useful. I really hope that this Street Smart Analyzer will help you get one step closer to investing in real estate. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Franklin Roosevelt. And I also want to point out that, if you're here, you're smart. It means you're already taking action to see if real estate investment is a way to help you in some way. So big congratulations to you. Here's the thing. Franklin Roosevelt, he was the 32nd U.S. president. He was the only president to be elected 4 times, which is a lot of times. Roosevelt led the United States through the Great Depression and World War II, so this guy knew a thing or two. He was what I like to call a smart cookie. And his words are, real estate cannot be lost or stolen, nor can it be carried away. Purchased with common sense, paid for in full, and managed with reasonable care, it's about the safest investment in the world. And by the way, it's a very common statistic that 95% of all millionaires have done so through real estate. Again, I really appreciate you having a look at my Street Smart Analyzer. I truly hope it makes you feel more confident about real estate and what you're doing. I've got lots of other tips and tricks and free things over at my website at streetsmartdiva.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I really hope to keep in touch. So we'll see you next time.